Welcome back to our viewers that are tuning into another CSE listed issuer update. I'm Anil Mall, representing the Canadian Securities Exchange. And today we are talking to Mitchell Scott. Mitchell is the CEO of Cult Food Science Corp, trades on the CSE under the symbol CULT. Mitchell, I appreciate your time. I hope you're well.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
You know, I'm excited for this conversation because, as I mentioned earlier, you're speaking to your typical meatitarian.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an education for myself as well. I know in our conversation you had mentioned about a food revolution that's happening. People are trying and being more conscious about the global factory farming and agricultural crisis. Can you maybe educate not only myself, but talk to us a little bit about why this is so important and what is the shift that's taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. So, meat demand is set to double in the next 20 to 30 years. Currently, a third of the land on Earth is used for animal agriculture, factory farming, a lot of other really destructive practices. And we can't just, double that. We're going to run out of space pretty soon. And we need to figure out a new way to make all these products that we love, meat, cheese, dairy, honey. And what we're really focused on is how can we help that transition? How can we, bring better products to market by supporting our portfolio companies, basically. So we've invested in about 18 different portfolio companies in this new cellular agriculture food tech space and are really excited at everything that they're working on at really trying to help shift the world into a new way of producing products.
So on that note, I know you've come on board as the CEO of the company late in 2023. Why don't you give our audience that might not be familiar with who you are and what the company does another introduction to what Cult Food Science's focus is, and maybe recap 2023 and what were some of the recent achievements?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in the plant-based meat space. Started a company called The Very Good Butchers, which was actually CSE listed as well. Had a lot of success there. We're the top performing IPO globally of 2020. And while I was there, realized that, plant-based food was great. People were loving it. People were switching. They were eating less animals, eating more plants. But there was still that, big chunk of people that weren't making the switch for a couple of key reasons. And the big thing comes down to taste and texture. So plant-based products weren't quite delivering on that. They're not the same as eating this animal-based product. And I think what cellular agriculture and cultivated meat and all these new technologies can deliver is a product that is identical. On a cellular level, it's the same as that meat, but it's just made in a way that's so much better for the environment, for people, for health, and obviously for the animals as well. So that's what kind of got me really excited and interested in the space. The Cult team reached out to me, and I was, happy to jump in and kind of, lead the charge. And as I mentioned before, Cult is an investment management company, raised about $4.5 million, deployed that across some incredible portfolios of companies in the space. So 18 different companies, everything from cultivated meat to dairy, honey without bees, coffee. Basically, wherever you see animal products being used, we're investing in companies that are providing solutions to produce these products without animals. And, a lot of times it's more efficient as well, right? It takes a couple years to raise a cow. With technology, we can produce the same products in, a month or less, and at the same time end up with a product that looks and tastes the same, but is much, much cleaner. There's less risk of diseases. So that's what I'm really excited to be working on.
So what's the feedback that you and your team receive, good or bad, from consumers when it comes to this space and some of the products that you have?
Yeah, so I think it's mixed. I think there's definitely still some consumer wariness just because it's so new. So cultivated meat, for example, has been approved for sale in 3 countries. So Singapore, which was a couple years ago, US, which was last year, and then Israel, which was, I want to say, a few weeks ago. And it's still very small scale. Companies are in the process of, including some of our portfolio companies, creating these products, figuring out how to scale them, getting them out in very limited tastings to the public. So I still think it's, a few years away from really being mainstream. Where we do see a lot of opportunity in the near term is in the pet food space. So 30% of meat kind of consumed globally goes into pet food these days. And I think people are a lot more open to feeding their pets cultivated meat initially than they might be to consuming it themselves. The idea being, you're an animal lover, why feed your animal another animal? So that's something we've been working on. One of our portfolio companies, which we ended up acquiring, is in the pet food space, and we're working on, high protein, meat-free pet food treats, as well as cultivated pet food.
Are there any other notable portfolio companies that you want to talk about?
They're all notable. I mean, I think in terms of like the big ones, there's kind of two really big companies in the space, Upside Foods and Good Meat. They've both raised, well north of probably combined close to $1 billion. So Eat Good is a portfolio company, and they're the two that have been pursuing these, getting these regulatory clearances and have been really started almost bringing products to market in the U.S.
So Mitchell, the space, even though it's fairly new to market, there are quite a few peers that you have. How do you and your team differentiate from some of your peers?
Yeah, great question. I think for us, it's, as this investment management company, a lot of the other companies are all on the private side. So they're making their bets in the space. They're investing in companies. We're one of very few companies that are publicly listed. So, giving investors the opportunity to access these types of deals normally that you can only access if you're a VC or a fund or, have a big pile of money. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of the fact that we've made it, more accessible for all these exciting new technologies, which really are going to change the world. And, I have already started doing that.
Mitchell, you obviously have a background in a public company in this space, so you're familiar with it. And I believe, obviously talent and the people are a big part of any company's success. Mm-hmm. What about you and your team? Are there any notable team members that you want to mention that you've brought on board?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lean team, and I think our CFO Francis, who's out of Victoria as well, has been great. Also on the pet food side with this brand we acquired, Nucci's, the co-founder Josh came over from that. Great product developer, really knows the pet food space as well, and I think we've built a solid team that is able to, one, support our portfolio companies and help them commercialize products, make introductions. And then two, also build out this pet food brand. So build a company that can generate meaningful revenue.
One thing we can all agree on, Mitchell, is that people love their pets.
Absolutely, yeah.
They'll do anything for their pets. I'm a pet owner. I'm sure you are as well. How big is the market when it comes to pet food versus, in this space, I should say, pet food versus, human consumerism?
Yeah, I think so pet food is, it's a huge market. It's growing rapidly. And a lot of the growth right now is coming in two places. So it's at the premium, kind of the top end, which is where we are. And then it's also the value added segment, just with kind of the economic pressures. So I think we're really nicely positioned for a lot of the trends that you're seeing in pet. And I think those trends you're seeing in pet also mirror what's happening on the human side. So, more plant-based food, more high protein, more, health enabled. Like, how can we use food almost as medicine to be better for ourselves and also better for pets?
Now, obviously, education to consumers is a big part of it. I want to be fair and talk about the good and bad. Are you able to maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you or a company in this sector might face globally?
Absolutely. So I think the one challenge I touched on earlier was just consumer perception and acceptance. I think to a lot of people, it's still kind of a scary concept or idea. Oh, it's lab grown, it's, test tube meat, it's not safe. I think it's, if you look at it, it's a lot cleaner and healthier than the traditional way. 99% of meat made in America is factory farmed in some pretty appalling conditions. I think the other big challenge is scale and price parity. So like, to scale this technology is incredibly expensive. It requires large bioreactors, a lot of steel, a lot of science. And to be able to bring a product at a price point that makes sense for a consumer. Just as a quick example, 8 years ago, the first, maybe it was 10 now, the first lab-grown beef burger cost, $400,000 to produce. Now they've got it down to about $20 a burger. There's still, it's not at, the couple bucks a burger it needs to be to really spur widespread adoption. but I think it's come in leaps and bounds, and it's going to continue to become more and more attractive to consumers.
So as we move forward in 2024, we're already 1 month into it.
Yeah.
What are some of the milestones our viewers and your investors can look out for?
Yeah, so I think there's some wider milestones in the space. We just had the approval in Israel for cultivated beef, which was big. Got a lot of people talking. I think other milestones are some of the big companies that are in the U.S. bringing products to market in a more meaningful way. So starting to get into grocery stores, starting to get into more restaurants. On the cult side, with our in-house brand Nucci's, expect to see more increase in distribution, sales growth. And then also just from our portfolio companies, I think you're just going to continue to see them thrive, get new customers, build their businesses, and really start changing the world.
On that note, we always encourage our viewers to do their due diligence. Obviously, I would encourage them to not only go to your website to read up more about the food revolution and the global crisis that's happening when it comes to factory farming, but also, obviously read up on your portfolio companies, sign up for your upcoming press releases so they can keep up with progress. Where would you like to direct our viewers?
Yeah, so our website's probably the best spot for that, cultfoodscience.com. And yeah, over the past, couple months, I've been meeting with our portfolio companies, learning more about what they're doing, and I've just been really impressed at the solutions that they're building, at the products they're bringing to market, and at the change that they're instigating.
I think this is a conversation we can probably talk a lot longer on, but on this note, what I'd like to do is thank you for your time. I look forward to hosting you on again in the next, let's say, several months after you've got some more news we can talk about, hopefully around the summertime. And, we wish you and your team nothing but success as you move forward in this path.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be on.
Absolutely, Mitchell. To everybody watching, you've been listening to Mitchell Scott. He is the CEO of Cult Food Science Corp on the CSE, symbol CULT. Thanks again, Mitchell.
Thank you. Cheers.